Good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's Worksite Wellness Lunch and Learn. I'm Carol Battle, and I manage our Worksite Wellness program. Please note that we do offer closed captioning for this event. For captioning in English, click the CC button at the bottom of your screen, or if you'd like Spanish captioning, then click the link in the chat to use that option. I'm particularly excited about today's presentation because I am actually struggling with my own weight loss plateau. I had a total knee replacement on February 5th, so my exercise has been lacking and my weight is proving to be a little stubborn. This morning, we're going to learn about weight loss plateaus, which are perfectly normal, yet very confusing. Our presentation today will shed some light and some insight, not pounds, unfortunately, but insight on why a pause on a weight loss journey occurs and how to work through the plateau and continue on with your weight loss. Following the presentation, our speaker, Katie Godin, will do a live cooking demo, so be sure to stay through the end of the webinar. Katie's a registered dietitian who's been practicing for over 16 years. She focuses on helping individuals improve their knowledge and relationship with food and to meet their personal health goals, whatever those are. Lifestyle Medical Centers is an in-network nutrition counseling service. So for those of you enrolled in the state health plan, virtual and in-person visits are covered at 100% for in-network providers. We have dietitians across the state, and to find one near you, log into the state health plan portal, which is listed on the cover slide. As a reminder, everyone who registered for this event will receive a recording of today's presentation, as well as the recipe. To find past lunch and learns or see what's coming up, visit our website at oshr.nc.gov/wellness-webinars. And that is also on the cover slide. During the presentation, you can submit questions through the Q&A, and members of our NC Flex team will help answer them. Additionally, Katie has saved a few minutes at the end of the presentation to conquer any questions we're unable to get to. Now let's welcome Katie and Lunch and Learn.
Thank you, Carol. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here today. Today, we are going to talk through weight loss plateaus and how to navigate those. But before we kind of dive in and get started on today's topic, I do want to just throw something out there and emphasize that although I, of course, do find it helpful to understand the complexities of weight loss plateaus, I also want everyone to understand that weight loss should not be our only marker of progress within a health and wellness program. I'm really hopeful today to help drive home this message that weight loss plateaus throughout your health journey are completely normal, as Carol mentioned. You know, it's even necessary at times. I tell patients all of the time, our body is very intuitive, and weight loss can be like a stair step versus just this straight downward trajectory. And so I think it's really helpful to normalize fluctuations in our weight through various time frames of our life too. And so I'm really hopeful that, you know, that message gets across today, as well as just, yeah, trying to understand why they're existing. And of course, you know, how to work through some of them. Okay, so at Lifestyle, we offer a variety of services. And of course, you know, weight loss, weight management is part of it. But as you can see there, there's lots of things that we help people work through, whether it's chronic disease management or even sports nutrition. Sometimes people, you know, just want a little bit more of a focus on sleep and stress management within their health journey as well. So we focus on a variety of lifestyle changes. And of course, the other thing that I love that we provide is just that accountability and continued support, as well as in-person and virtual visits. Okay, so just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. So let's get right into it then. So what exactly characterizes a weight loss plateau? First off, plateaus can range in duration and severity from person to person. So not everyone is going to experience the same type of plateau for the same type of reason. There's going to be variances there. But typically they're defined as no change in weight, usually over around a month time frame. Although, like I said, duration can vary person to person, depending on maybe what the underlying issue is with why the plateau is occurring. Typically, people have had previous successful weight loss with the strategies that they've been implementing, and maybe there's really been no change in those strategies, but we're still seeing that those results are not occurring despite the continuation of what we've been doing. There may be no change in measurements. Maybe we're not even looking at the number on the scale, but there's also measurements that aren't making progress as well. And obviously, you know, there's people that kind of experience this frustration. Maybe there's demotivation as a result of all of this occurring and not really understanding why. I think that's really part of the bigger picture too, is just not really knowing why this is happening. Just some brief statistics here on weight loss plateaus. So basically, they're pretty frequent, you know, as you can see, 80% of individuals experience them on their journey. And as I mentioned in kind of my, you know, opening statement there, they're often necessary. You know, our body kind of likes to fall around a certain weight and lose weight at a certain pace. And that's really kind of a tricky place to navigate and understand why it is. There's lots of things that play into it, which I'll talk about in a second. But yes, 80% of individuals do experience some kind of weight loss plateau on their journey. As I mentioned before, you know, somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks, we would say that's a normal average length of time. Anything beyond that, we might find, okay, maybe there's something that we can kind of try to figure out that's happening and try to work through this plateau. But sometimes you just need to let the stall exist and kind of be understanding that this is normal and you're not doing anything wrong. It's just your body saying, I need a break, I need a pause. People often find that before they maybe have a plateau, they may have had, as I mentioned just a minute ago, previous weight loss. Sometimes people find that they've lost maybe 5 to even 10% of their weight loss before this stall occurs. That's maybe not straightforward for everybody, but this is just kind of an overall assessment here. So, you know, I like to tell people that, you know, persistent effort, consistency with your efforts, but just bottom line, we need to make sure we're adopting sustainable lifestyle changes here. So oftentimes we might lose weight very quickly in the beginning of our journey if that's a goal that we have for ourselves. I really try to drive home the message with patients that doing something too rigid, kind of cutting too many calories, not eating enough, we're going to maybe lose weight at a quicker pace. And then all of a sudden, this might not be sustainable for us to continue. Just such an important thing to note, because we are often led to go down such extreme paths with weight loss, whether it's I need to do what so-and-so is doing because she's lost this much weight in an amount of time that really, you know, has been amazing, you know, and I want that for myself. So we embark on a journey that maybe doesn't fit our needs very well. And so I think that that's something that I know with me personally, and of course the dietitians at Lifestyle, we really like to make sure that plans for people with, you know, their health and wellness goals are very individualized, but even more so that they're realistic. Okay, so I think that that's something that's really, really important. Okay, so let's kind of start talking about the causes here. So when we think about why weight loss plateaus exist, there's a lot of different reasons, okay? But one of the ones that people may not realize is that your metabolism is actually changing when you're losing weight. So when I think it was a while back, I'm not remembering exactly how long ago it was that I gave a presentation on metabolism, but we talked about something called BMR. So this is short for basal metabolic rate, and it's essentially how many calories you're burning in a resting state. So we use this to help people navigate calorie ranges. We try to focus on a variety of things also, not just calories, but looking at things like macronutrients. We talked about that last time, macronutrient distribution and how important that is, and among many other things. But we do, help people kind of understand how many calories their body is burning. And then we adjust that number based on certain factors like activity, for example, and we kind of come up with a plan, and we help people understand that. So basically, in order to do that, we have an equation that we use that uses a variety of information that would include things like your height, your weight, your age, and so when your weight changes and it lowers, your calorie amount is going to lower. Your metabolism is changing, and you don't need as much. And sometimes that's really a tricky place for people to navigate that. Sometimes we can't just keep adjusting calories down. And so we really have to kind of be, looking at other things other than just focusing on calories all of the time. But essentially that is part of why a plateau may exist, is just you don't need as many calories to sustain your current weight, and you certainly need less to lose. And so I know that might be a little complicated to just kind of understand completely, but it's something that we try to help explain to our patients in sessions. And so that's something that we can certainly get into more detail with on a one-on-one setting. So what do we do if we get to a point where calories are what they are? We really are having a hard time, and we don't want to get to this point where we're undernourishing and eating too little. There's a lot that we, that's not sustainable, right? Like I just talked about, kind of feeling this pressure of feeling like we need to eat less and less and less to lose weight. That isn't always what our body desires. And so it, stalls for that reason alone. It's kind of that survival mechanism, if you will. So it's intuitive, as I mentioned. But so other things that are also kind of coming about with some of these weight loss plateaus are changes to our physical activity. And that could be, lots of things. Like I tell people, variety is really such a nice thing with exercise for many reasons. I mean, it certainly can aid with a metabolic boost and help people kind of push themselves over a plateau. But I like to focus on the other benefits of a variety of exercise also. A variety of exercise is great for our mental health. They even tell, I remember we had a dog trainer, and so they would say, look, take your dog on different walks. Don't just do the same walk every single day. It's really helpful for their mind to kind of change it up. And that's the same for us. It's the same for, do we take a hill one day versus not? Do we, take a longer route one day versus not? Walking is fantastic. And I don't ever want to discourage someone from doing something that they love to all of a sudden pivoting and doing an exercise that they don't like. So that isn't the goal, but it's just changing up how we do that physical activity. I might tell people, hey, let's slap, a couple wrist weights on and go for that walk. That can really jazz it up a little bit. So it's things like that that can kind of help. Um, Sometimes people are experiencing water retention. We do have body composition scales that can kind of help people navigate that. I feel like understanding that it's not just about what we're eating all of the time and calories, but it can also be other things that are going on. And yes, it could be sodium related. There could be other things going on though. So it's important that we're kind of looking into some of these stalls just for more medical reasons for some individuals. So, but water retention can definitely be a culprit for some people who are kind of finding that they're not seeing that weight move as they maybe previously were. Okay. So continuing the causes here. So sometimes people don't recognize that, hey, I've actually been doing really well with exercise. I've been going on lots of walks. I've been maybe going to the gym and doing some strength training. Muscle gain is an actual, thing that happens here, and it can certainly change the way that our weight looks on a scale, but certainly this is a good thing. And I also want people to kind of recognize some of the good that can be coming about. It's not always us paying attention to that number all of the time, so we do look at measurements and encourage people to pay attention to other things, because hey, how strong are we feeling? Are we able to, lift a heavier weight than we were 6 weeks ago? And we're feeling really good about that. Maybe our inches are changing. Maybe we're noticing our clothes are feeling a little different, right? So these are really positive things that can be coming about despite the number not moving. All right. Certain hormonal changes can certainly affect our weight and our weight loss progress. But this is important. I want to shift the conversation here to the importance of, if we're having some hormonal fluctuations due to something like stress and a rise in cortisol and changes in our body in this way, that can sometimes inhibit weight loss despite continued efforts. We really need to be paying attention to the stress side of things here. We need to be working through what are some of your, what are some barriers that you're having right now, and how can we help support you in that way and help you, although we're of course not therapists, but we're here to support and help guide you and help facilitate people that maybe could be helpful for you on your health journey in our office and outside of our office as well. So, but that is a real factor here, is that, people do struggle with sleep and stress. And oftentimes when we start this health and wellness journey and, maybe again, we're seeing progress and then all of a sudden we're not seeing that progress again, we really need to focus on lots of other things, thinking outside the box a little bit. And then of course, medical reasons. Maybe it's medication related. We have clinicians that are on board that are constantly taking peeks at your medicine, looking at things of this nature to kind of help explain how certain medications can be culprits to these fluctuations in your weight. And sometimes we really can't help that we need those medications. And so it's just really trying to work through those thoughts and feelings as well. And then other medical reasons, if someone, maybe has an underactive thyroid, that's just one of the many examples. But, there are labs that we looked at, things like that we're trying to help explain and get to the root cause here, if this is something that, really frustrating and demotivating, and ultimately you're just trying to understand. Okay. So I know we went through that very quickly, but yes, it's complicated. But as far as the causes go, there are explanations, and there's ways of working through these stalls for some individuals. And so let's kind of talk through that a little bit. When we think about breaking through a plateau, I know that I talked briefly there, at the beginning of mentioning about your BMR and, looking at calorie adjustment and kind of finagling that a little bit so that it fits maybe some new goals that your body is maybe desiring. If it's kind of, you're wanting to lose weight and you're not seeing that happen. So we might reevaluate your calorie intake. We also want to make sure that people feel comfortable with, all of this. And so again, we might talk through macronutrient distribution and not just focus heavily on that calorie amount, because sometimes it's really not just the calories, right? It's how those calories are made up. I've talked about this briefly in the past as well, but something called the thermic effect of food. And essentially, it just takes more energy to break down and digest certain macronutrients than it does others. And I'm not prioritizing any macronutrients because of that. It's just a fact. And so oftentimes we'll kind of maybe steer people towards, eating a decent amount of protein, making sure you're getting enough fiber, which is really important, and things like whole grains for your starches. And really, we've got lots of different ways of helping people work through this. There's, meal plans, but we've also got more simplified diagrams and pictures for people to look at. One of my favorites is something called the plate method. And so just helping people understand that, you can have a variety of food, but yeah, balance and the way we put food together can essentially be a factor and be helpful for breaking through some of these plateaus. Mixing up your workouts. So I talked through that just a minute ago, but again, for a variety of reasons. But, when we add in strength training, we really are kind of working on building more lean muscle mass. And there's lots of benefits to doing that. And it isn't just about, revving that metabolism and, losing more weight. That is part of it for people. But, just kind of strengthening our skeletal system, helping with our flexibility and our bone health. I mean, these are so important. These factors are so important and meaningful and really helpful when we're looking at things just other than weight when it comes to why we're doing some of this. I know I've talked to you guys and thrown this word out a lot, but I just feel like it's really helpful to continue to understand the relevance behind the why. We really need to kind of dive deep, because if we're constantly just focusing on working on these things because we want to see a number on a scale, that's going to feel really defeating when we don't see that number change. When we kind of think about all the reasons why what we're doing is so helpful for us, not just weight loss, but all the other things, non-scale victories, as I call them, which we'll kind of talk through here in a second. That really helps kind of normalize these plateaus, or just mentally makes you kind of feel like you can handle them a little bit easier as you're trying to work through them. Awareness of portions is really helpful. We do often find that when, sometimes people will start a program and they're kind of doing all of the things. And it's life, isn't it? When we all of a sudden, we're maybe doing some tracking. Maybe we're, doing a little bit of measuring. Maybe we've been really focused on plate method and balancing of the food. And then all of a sudden life happens and, our kids get sick, or we go on vacation, or whatever. We can name lots of different things here. It's life. We can get kind of disconnected. And sometimes I think portions is one thing that people kind of fall slightly disconnected with. So what I'll have people do is just kind of pay attention. Maybe it's not tracking all of the time and being so micromanaging in that way. Not everybody connects with that. But maybe it's just bringing out a smaller plate, maybe it's hey, I'm not actually looking at the serving size on that food label. Maybe I should do that, right? Maybe we put those chips in a bowl or on our plate and balance it with a couple other things instead of just, we've all been there standing at the pantry door eating the chips while we're looking for something else to eat. These are things that are just normal. It's normal. And so I think just something that, we love to do. And, I think just that support is to just help people kind of understand that's okay, but hey, these are things that we're noticing, you're telling us you're not really connecting with as you were maybe 6 weeks ago. Let's try to focus on that for a little bit. So portions is something that I think is really important, as well as hydration. Staying hydrated is key. Our body needs decent amount of water throughout the day. And as we, kind of think about it, sometimes when we are kind of nibbling on food, it could be just your body saying you're thirsty instead of you're hungry. So having, yourself just some type of water bottle or whatever you enjoy, whatever works best for you, by your side all of the time. I think that that's really, really important. Just having it accessible. A lot of times people will ask, well, how many ounces? And I say, well, yeah, I mean, we can certainly come up with a goal for you to stick to. But really just having water accessible all of the time is going to really help for you to remember to drink it. So staying hydrated is certainly part of the picture here. Okay, and just a few more things to consider when we're trying to break through these plateaus. Sleep. So when we do not get a good night's sleep, we do have build up of certain unwanted hormone levels of things like cortisol, for example. We've talked about that in the past. It really isn't conducive to weight loss and seeing change when we aren't sleeping well. Bottom line, again, like let's think through beyond the weight for a second, but we don't feel well when we don't sleep well. So why aren't we sleeping well? That's something that we really want to help you work through. And that's something that we certainly prioritize a lot at Lifestyle. We really do help and try to, as best we can. I get there are certain phases of life where sleep is not as easily, it's not as easy to control, is what I'm trying to say, and that's just a reality. But there's probably some things that you can't control. So we try to work on that versus kind of setting you up for some really unrealistic expectations here. But really working through your sleep and seeing if we can kind of help with the quality of your sleep is very important, as well as your stress. And again, sometimes we don't have as much control over some of these things as we would like, but we work on coping skills for people as best we can, especially when it comes to how we deal with stress, as far as taking food and using that as kind of our main coping skill to deal with stress. I'm a big let's add things to the picture versus feel like we can't all of the time. So it's really hard to tell people, well, you can't eat when you're stressed. Okay, that's goal number one for you to work on over the next week. Yeah, right. That's so hard. Let's talk about what we can add, though, so that eating isn't the only thing in your toolbox. Okay, that feels a lot better and a lot less stressful for, I feel like, a lot of people. So what are 3 or 4 things we can add to the picture over the next few weeks that you can pull from when you're feeling stressed? And those are ways that we can kind of help. But I do think just having some patience, having that consistent kind of the approach, if you will, and understanding that these are just normal for a lot of different reasons. And so I think that that's really helpful. That help that we can provide for people is the support through some of these more difficult times. And of course, checking in with a medical professional, if this is something, maybe you guys have been trying to do this on your own for a little bit. Maybe some of you are currently in a plateau. Maybe you've never worked with a dietitian. Maybe you've never worked with a team of people, that can help. So that's where a place like Lifestyle could certainly be of assistance with helping you understand a lot of this. Let's talk beyond the scale though here for the remainder of the presentation. I do love to encourage people to focus on non-scale victories. It's so important. And I find that, if someone comes to me and they say, I'm really frustrated at the beginning of their visit, my hope for them is by the end of their visit, because we're kind of, helping them connect with some of these non-scale victories, which really seem so important. And they're so thankful for them that they leave feeling just kind of more motivated than when they came in, right? And so I feel like that's really something that we strive for. But increased energy is one of the best things that I think that people tell me. They are just over the moon to just be able to, I don't know, just have more energy throughout the day, not feel so tired. They don't need as much caffeine. Maybe they've made that change. Maybe they've stopped drinking as much caffeine and they're noticing more natural energy. And that's just really lovely for them. Their mood has improved. How important is that? I mean, yeah, maybe we're not seeing this number that we want to see, that we thought we needed to see, but we are feeling great and we are feeling just better in general in so many ways. And I really think that that's important. Maybe their labs have changed. That's something that I love to see for people. When maybe someone who came in pre-diabetic is now within normal range for their A1C. That's awesome. And that happens a lot. And that is really important. Maybe they have a stronger social connection. Maybe they're out there just feeling like, wow, I'm feeling more positive. I'm feeling more, just kind of good in my skin. I'm getting out more. These are really positive things. Maybe they've made habit changes that they're really proud of, right? Maybe they pack their lunch now and take it to work instead of flying by the seat of your pants and ordering food every single day or skipping because we weren't prepared. And then maybe you're sleeping better because we've added some exercise into the mix, and maybe we're not eating snacks late into the evening and we're just sleeping better because of those two things, and we feel good. And so it's really, really helpful to continue to focus in on things that make you feel good always, that have nothing to do with weight, right? So, but again, it really is helpful to understand why it may be happening so that you can, I think, just understand. I think that's really what we're looking for, is why is this happening though? And sometimes just knowing that really helps you feel a little bit more at ease, okay? All right, guys. So we're going to make a pretty simple dish today that I'm really excited about. This is just a broccoli salad. Maybe you guys have made this, quite a few times. I don't know if you've made this exact one though. So hopefully not. And this will be a new little twist on it that you can kind of try for your next cookout. So got it from Eating Well. The recipe will be shared with you. Let's see. And as we get into the cooking demo, if you do have, anything that you want to bring up or you have any questions, we can of course talk through that. Okay.
Katie, we do have one question that I think really represents a lot of people, but this person said, since I hit full menopause, the weight loss is steadily packing on. As I have the past 20 years, I'm continuing to drink about a half a gallon of water each day, get 6 to 7 hours of sleep each night, and exercise 5 days a week. Why is it so hard to lose weight during menopause?
It's so hard. And I think this is one of the most difficult phases of life for women. And it starts much earlier, for a lot of women, that perimenopause phase of life. But as your estrogen levels decrease, you are more likely to kind of have some abdominal fat storage. And so a lot of women notice that starts to happen and metabolism is slowing down. it's a complicated time frame for women, you know. And so, as I mentioned before, with the weight loss and with plateaus, and sometimes we just kind of get into new phases of life where we have a new normal. There are certain, I'm not saying that you have to just accept that you're at a weight that maybe you're not happy with. But again, I always like, you know, it sounds like this individual is doing a lot of really good things for their body. And I think that should be celebrated, and that should be, you know, but it is about how you feel. And this is where talking with a medical professional, yes, a dietitian can be helpful, but also, you know, clinicians that we have, talking with, you know, other, you know, doctors that you've got on your in your life, would be very helpful for you to navigate that a little bit further as far as other things that you can try. But one of the biggest things that I will leave, you know, this out there for women, especially that are entering in this phase of life, which happens, you know, somewhere in your 40s as far as the perimenopause stage, most average women, and then can just last until, of course, you hit that phase of life where you've reached menopause. But is adopting some type of strength training regimen, because it is just so important. As you're losing estrogen, you are more likely to have decreased bone mass, and you really should be doing some weight bearing exercises. And this doesn't mean you have to do, you know, something so heavy and get into, you know, heavy lifting here, but doing some type of weight bearing exercise. And that also, as I mentioned, can really help. That lean muscle mass growth that you're producing is really helpful for increasing your caloric burn, your metabolism. And I think that that's something that when we think of exercise, maybe that goes overlooked a little bit. We kind of focus in a lot on the cardio side of things. But yes, that would be a great thing to talk about in session. You know, that's something that people talk through a lot and actually seek out lifestyle for that reason. And we have great clinicians on board, and one specifically that loves to work with patients in this phase of life. So
Great. Thank you, Katie.
you're welcome.
That salad looks good.
Yeah, let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing that for a second. Okay. So first thing I'm gonna do, this recipe calls for some toasted almonds. So I'm gonna toast some almonds really quickly over here. So I've got my pan out. I'm gonna get just a little bit of olive oil, and I'm gonna just drizzle. I'm not measuring it out. I'm just kind of drizzling. If I had to guess, it's maybe about a teaspoon. And I'm just gonna heat it over like a medium-low heat. And I've got a 1/4 cup of sliced almonds that I'm gonna throw in there and kind of toast up here, okay? It doesn't take too long, but it does take, you know, a couple minutes here just to kind of stir them around. Does anyone else have a question that you want to talk through?
We really don't have any right now.
Okay,
That are
that's fine.
related to this.
Okay.
Or benefits focused.
Well, I'll kind of talk through the dressing for the salad then. So this particular recipe is calling for a little bit of mayo, a little bit of Greek yogurt, some honey, and some apple cider vinegar with just a little bit of salt and pepper in there. So we're going to make that dressing that we're going to add to the broccoli, among some other ingredients that I'll talk through in a second. But as these almonds are kind of toasting over here, I'm just going to whip up this dressing. So, all right. Okay, so first thing I have here is just 3 tablespoons of some mayo, which, look, you could just use Greek yogurt here if you wanted to. I'm just kind of going by the recipe, but you could definitely just add more Greek yogurt. I've made another broccoli salad that just uses Greek yogurt, so you could definitely do that. This is a 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt, okay? So I'm gonna add that in. I have about a quarter teaspoon, maybe a little bit less of salt, and then a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. I'm gonna dump that in there. And then we're gonna add in 1.5 tablespoons of some apple cider vinegar. Okay, I think I dumped a little too much in there. Okay, then we're gonna add in 1.5 tablespoons of honey. And you guys, for anyone that has needs to watch, their sugar content. I'm trying to remember. Let me look up. It has in here. You could have 6 grams of added sugar in this particular recipe. So for a serving size, which is 1 cup of the broccoli salad. So you could leave the honey out if you wanted to. I don't know that you really need all of this honey either. I think a tablespoon is probably fine, which is, I think, what I'm actually going to do. It also calls for some grapes. So that's going to be adding in some natural sweetness as well, which wouldn't be considered any added sugar. But this recipe also has, let me see, a few grams of fiber, 5 grams of protein, and 12 grams of healthy fat, which all are great for kind of that balance. And you would eat this with, I would recommend eating this as a side item to maybe something like some chicken or fish or some other type of lean protein that would help balance some of the carbs that's associated with the recipe. All right. Okay, I'm gonna whisk this up here. So I've just got all those ingredients in there. I'm gonna check on my almonds over here. See if you guys can kind of see what's going on. It's starting to toast a little bit. I might not leave them on too much longer. Okay. And I wanted to talk through what I did with the broccoli. So I actually went ahead and did this and wanted to explain it. It's a bit of kind of a fast-paced process. So I thought, I'm gonna go ahead and do this now. So or beforehand. So I have about 3.5 cups of broccoli here chopped up. So we've got some just broccoli florets mostly, so fresh chopped up, and then also a 1/2 cup of some red onion, okay? So what I did with that and what it calls for is for you to boil some water, and then you dump all of that in the water and let it boil for 2 minutes. This is called blanching. This is where you're kind of just cooking it real quick. And then we're going to dump it after those 2 minutes into some ice water to stop the cooking process. The reason for this is really because it looks prettier when the broccoli turns kind of that bright green. So there's that. Sometimes people will ask, hey, is broccoli better for you cooked or raw? And both are good for you in different ways. So eat them in a variety of ways. So that's going to be how I say to eat all vegetables. I would never tell someone that they can't have a vegetable raw or they can't have a vegetable cooked because they need to eat it the other way. It's how you like it. You're eating a vegetable, right? That's the point. However, the color is just so much prettier when you do this blanching. And it also makes the broccoli a little bit more tender so that you're not just kind of diving right into a bunch of raw broccoli, which honestly, I've made broccoli salad by just using raw broccoli and it was fine. So I think you can kind of feel out your preference with this step altogether. But so I went ahead and did that because I would kind of like flying around the kitchen and dumping anyway. So yeah, so we've got 3.5 cups, like I said, of some cut up broccoli and 1/2 cup of some red onion. I think what I'm going to do to mix it up really well is dump it first in my larger bowl, and then I will put it over in the serving bowl. So what you're going to do is we're going to take our broccoli and our onion. I'm going to dump it in here. You could also double this recipe if you would like, depending on how many people that you're wanting to serve. I think that this would serve a family of 4 very well. But I think if you're having, a big cookout, I would probably double this recipe just so that you have enough. I'm going to stir these almonds because I think they're toasting. Yeah, they're looking really good. So I'm going to actually cut the heat off there and leave them on the pan for a second.
And Kate, what are the best, but we do have another couple of questions.
Yeah.
One is, what are the best foods to eat post-menopause to assist with weight loss? Would it be protein, similar to trying to develop your muscle mass?
Yeah, well, I think let's kind of circle back to when I talked about balance and plate method. I think we need a variety of nutrients always, even post-menopause. But yes, if we're wanting to kind of boost and get, kind of that quality protein, there's a lot of research that kind of points towards more plant-based sources of protein as well. Really good to kind of have all that in for gut health as well. So I just think it's going to be a variety of nutrients, definitely making sure that you are prioritizing protein when you do eat, but that can also look a lot of different ways for people. It doesn't have to be meat. It can be plant-based, even actually has been recommended to eat more plant-based protein sources. And then making sure you're getting just enough fiber, because remember when we talked about protein and fiber and their thermic effect of food and how it really aids with that metabolic boost, as it's requiring more energy to break down and digest. So it burns more calories in the process. And so that's basically what's happening. It does not mean that you can't eat carbohydrates, but we may, look at certain people's kind of dietary recalls and kind of assess what types of carbohydrates they're eating majority of the time. Is there any way that we can shift those to look a little differently, balance them out a little differently? So we might kind of play around with that distribution of them, but there's certainly nothing that I would say you can't eat. I think it's more about just being strategic with how you're pairing everything together, if that helps.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we've got our broccoli, we've got our onion mixture here. I am going to, let's see. We're going to fold in the broccoli right. So I'm actually going to take our little dressing that we made, and I'm going to put that in with my broccoli. Okay, so we've just got broccoli, onions, and then this dressing. And you guys, this is so quick. This would be a really easy one for you to make for your next cookout. And then we've got, let's see, kind of mix that up pretty good. All right, now we are going to add in, this is about half a cup of some chopped grapes. I think the recipe called for a cup, and so I went ahead and cut it to half of a cup just because I didn't really think it needed a cup. You can do what you'd like to do with that, okay? I'm just adding in around a half a cup of some chopped up grapes. Okay, and then we've got our toasted almonds in the pan here, which didn't take long at all. So kind of add those in. Okay. Okay, just making sure you guys can see that. And it's really pretty. I'm going to plate it in this pretty bowl here really quickly. Does anyone else have any more questions as I do that really fast?
Yes. Can not taking in enough calories cause weight gain?
Yes. So I think I might have touched on that briefly, but maybe I didn't linger on that as much. But yes, when you don't eat enough to support just a healthy metabolism, and your body can kind of get into this state of, whoa, I'm not eating enough. And so it actually kind of stalls for that reason. Like I said, it's very intuitive, and it kind of understands that it really isn't getting what it needs. And so it kind of holds on to weight as a result of that. And so that's kind of a very simplified way of explaining it. But yes, it is very important that not only, like I mentioned before, not just focusing on calories all of the time and feeling as if we just need to eat less and eat less and eat less, especially if you're adding in weight training and getting in like a really good exercise regimen. I mean, it's really important that you're supporting that for yourself. You're giving yourself enough protein. You're giving yourself enough calories to help support that exercise, because your body isn't going to want to let go of, you know, any stores, any fat stores and things like that if it feels like it's not getting enough. So you have to be slightly strategic there with that. But it's more with just the distribution of the calories too. It's not just about the calories itself. It's just, are we getting enough protein? Are we getting enough fiber? And so, but yes, bottom line, under eating is something that I talk to people a lot about, because they feel like, hey, I should be losing weight, let's just eat 1,200 calories. Well, not necessarily. You know, we like to look at what your BMR is and what your total energy expenditure is with exercise, and come down from that number and, you know, just take a chunk of calories off, not too much. So that's where we can be helpful with understanding around how much. Okay, let me show you guys our little end result here. I'm trying to think of where I put my my serving spoon. Oh, here it is. Here we go. Okay, so here we are completed. I think it's really pretty. I love like a bright green broccoli salad like this. And there's lots of different, you know, touches in here. I love the toasted almonds. I think that really adds, like, anytime you have a crunch like that, like a nut, I think that's really kind of a nice twist. Obviously, having a little bit of fruit kind of adds to some of that natural sweetness. Like I mentioned, you maybe could just leave the honey out altogether, especially if you were worried about sugar intake. But just a really simple side maybe to add to your summertime cookout that you're going to be having.
Is there any way to use frozen broccoli in this recipe?
Yeah, I think the thing that I would be cautious about with frozen broccoli is just that, you know, make sure you thaw it and get a lot of the water content out. It's just going to produce, you know, a little bit more moisture. So you just might want to kind of tend to that so that it, but yes, I think frozen broccoli could be an option. Mm-hmm.
Well, this looks like a great recipe.
Yeah, I know. I finished early today. It was one of those things that it was just kind of an easy peasy one. So sometimes that's really nice though.
Well, did you blanch the onions as well?
I did. So I did the broccoli and the onions together. And so, yeah, 1/2 cup of the onions, 3.5 cups of the broccoli, and 2 minutes boil, then drain, dump in ice for 2 minutes and drain, and you're done. So it's a speedy but easy process.
Okay. And is there a substitute for onions if you don't like onions, or would the substitute be just to leave them out?
I guess you could just leave them out. I'm trying to, there are so many variations to a broccoli salad. And so you might just kind of peek around and look at other broccoli salads and see if there's, oh, that one actually looks good. Maybe you like the general idea of this one, but you want to see what other twists you can throw in. And that, you know, to take the place of the onion. But yeah, I get the red onion might be kind of hit or miss for some people. So you could definitely just leave that out.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Katie. This was wonderful, and I cannot wait to make that salad. Might be the perfect thing to do on a rainy day.
I know. Oh my goodness. I'm hopeful that the weather will clear up here in the next day or two, but I guess we had a gorgeous weekend, like we were saying. So I'm thankful for that. And our flowers probably need this rain. So
exactly. Well, lots of thank yous on the question and answer, and we certainly appreciate your time today. And this was just so educational. We appreciate it.
Perfect.
And as always, we love the cooking demos.
Great, great.
All right.
Well,
Thank
I look
you.
forward to seeing everybody in June.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you then.